Welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will be examining the factors which influence the processes of denudation. The rocks of the earth are subjected to processes which originate inside the earth, as well as processes which originate at the earth's surface. Those processes which originate inside of the earth are called endogenetic processes and include earthquakes, volcanic activities, folding and faulting, etc. Endogenetic processes are important in creating most of the world's major landforms. For example, when plates are compressed at convergent plate margins, fold mountains such as the Himalayas as well as the Andes are formed. The rocks of these fold mountains are then subjected to exogenetic processes. Exogenetic processes are processes which originate above or at the Earth's surface. Exogenetic processes include deposition and denudation. While deposition builds up the surface, denudation lowers the land. Denudation includes the processes of weathering, mass wasting, and erosion. Let us examine each of these. Weathering may be defined as the gradual disintegration and decomposition of rocks in situ. It may be classified into physical, chemical, and biological weathering. Physical weathering, also called mechanical weathering, includes processes such as pressure release, thermal expansion, as well as frost shattering. These processes involve rocks breaking up into smaller pieces with no change in their mineral composition. For example, during the process of frost shattering, water is collected in the fractures of rocks. When temperature falls below 0 degrees, the water freezes in the cracks, causing them to expand. When temperature increases once more, the ice melts and the cracks contract. The continuous expansion and contraction of these cracks will cause the rock to break apart. Chemical weathering includes processes such as oxidation, carbonation, solution, and hydrolysis. These processes involve changes in the composition of the rock, which weakens the rock. For example, during the process of hydrolysis, water reacts with minerals in the rocks, resulting in the minerals being changed into weaker ones. For example, feldspar, which is a mineral found in granite rock, reacts with water and changes into clay minerals. Biological weathering involves rocks breaking up due to the impact of plants and animals. For example, when a seed grows in the cracks of rocks, it will cause the rock to break apart. Another process of denudation is mass wasting. This is the downslope movement of material under the influence of gravity. Mass wasting includes the processes of soil creep and landslides. Soil creep may be defined as the slow, imperceptible, and continuous movement of soil down a slope under the influence of gravity. It occurs when soil expands and then shrinks back. Each time the soil shrinks back, it slowly moves down the slope. The process is so slow that we are unable to see it as it happens. However, certain evidences, such as the bending of tree trunks, as well as the tilting of utility poles and fences, the accumulation of materials behind fences, and broken walls, let us know that the process is occurring. Landslide may be defined as a sudden downslope movement of material. Unlike soil creep, landslide is a very rapid movement, so we can actually see it in action. It may be triggered by heavy rainfall, earthquakes, volcanic activities, as well as human activities. So, for example, heavy rainfall may cause materials on a slope to be detached from the underlying rock. After this, the material can be pulled down the slope under the influence of gravity. Landslides often leave a scar in the land. The third process of denudation is erosion. Erosion refers to the wearing away of the land by moving agents such as water, wind, waves, and ice. Erosion includes the processes of attrition, abrasion, hydraulic action, as well as solution. Attrition is a process by which materials being carried in the water collide and break up. Abrasion is a process by which materials are thrown against the beds and banks of river channels as well as against the coast. This causes the land to be worn down. Hydraulic action is the physical process by which the force of the water causes erosion of the land. Another process of erosion is solution. Like hydraulic action, the main agent in solution is water. However, unlike hydraulic action, solution is a chemical process. It involves water dissolving soluble minerals in the rocks. Now, the type and rate of denudation is determined by a number of factors. These include the nature of the rock, the relief of the land, the climate, the impact of plants and animals, tectonic activities, as well as human activities. The geological structure of the land refers to the arrangement of the rocks. The ways rocks form have a great impact on their structure. For example, sedimentary rocks often have layered structure. However, processes acting on the rocks after they are formed can also alter their structure. So rocks may become folded, faulted, or may develop cracks in the process. Concordant coastlines occur where bands of differing rocks run parallel to the coast. The outer resistant rock provides a protective barrier and therefore reduces the rate of erosion along the coast. Discordant coastlines occur where bands of differing rocks run perpendicular to the coast. In this situation, both the soft and hard rocks are exposed to the sea, which increases the rate of erosion. Soft rocks are more easily impacted by denudation than hard rocks. When soft rocks and hard rocks alternate, this will lead to differential erosion. Differential erosion involves soft rocks eroding faster than the hard rocks. This is common along the coast where there is a discordant coastline. The faster erosion of the soft rock will lead to bays being formed, while the hard rocks will project as headlands. The composition of rocks is a major factor which determines the rate of chemical processes. For example, rocks with iron are vulnerable to oxidation, and those with a high proportion of calcium carbonate, such as limestone, are vulnerable to carbonation. Since most processes of denudation involve water as an agent, permeable rocks are usually vulnerable. And this is because they allow water to pass through. The relief of the land also influences the rate of denudation. Steep slopes are more subjected to gravity and are therefore more vulnerable to mass movement and erosion. Flat surfaces, which encourage infiltration, can also be affected by denudation processes which involve water. Denudation can occur under a variety of climatic conditions. For example, in arid climates with very little cloud cover, thermal expansion occurs quite frequently. Tropical regions with heavy rainfall and high temperatures have higher rates of chemical weathering. Where rainfall is heavy most of the times, mass wasting and erosion is common. And in temperate regions where temperatures oscillate around zero, frost shattering is a common weathering process. Plants and animals are also important in determining the rate of denudation. Burrowing animals can result in biological weathering. Biological weathering may also result from plants growing in rocks. At the same time, vegetation along slopes can help to stabilize the slopes and reduce the rate of mass movement. Tectonic processes such as volcanic activities and earthquakes can help to trigger landslides. Finally, human activities is another set of factors influencing the rate of denudation. Deforestation can destabilize slopes and may result in mass wasting, such as landslides. Slopes may also be steepened through engineering activities, which may also lead to mass wasting. On the other hand, people can also build retaining walls along slopes and therefore reduce mass wasting. Riverbank stabilization projects have also been carried out by people, and this helps to reduce the rate of erosion along channel banks. Now, the processes of denudation do not operate in isolation. They are interrelated. For example, weathering breaks up rocks in situ, which means it does not involve transportation. If the rocks are located along a slope, they may be later carried down the slope by mass wasting after weathering has occurred. If weathering occurs along a flat surface, then the materials may later be moved by processes of erosion. Mass wasting in fluvial environments may carry down materials along the slope of river valleys. The material may often fall into the river channel to become a part of the river's load. The load in the river may then become an agent of fluvial erosion in the processes such as attrition and abrasion. Now, before I close off this video, I want us to look at a few past paper questions on the topic. The first question reads, explain how temperature changes and frost action can destroy rocks. This question is worth 6 marks, which means that you will get 3 marks for talking about each process. For thermal expansion or temperature changes, as the question puts it, we can explain that rock surface expands due to heat and contract when it cools. The expansion and the contraction leads to the rock breaking up. For frost shattering, cracks expand when water freezes inside of them and contract when the ice later melts. And again, the expansion and the contraction leads to the rock breaking up or being destroyed. The next question reads, explain two ways by which water contributes to weathering of rocks. This is worth 6 marks. Again, we could talk about frost shattering since water is one of the agents of that process. For the second process, we could talk about hydrolysis or even carbonation. In both cases, we need to make it clear exactly what role water plays in the processes. Part 1 of question 3 asks us to define soil creep, while the next part of the question asks us to give evidences of the process of soil creep. Now, when defining soil creep, we need to remember to include the important terms such as slow, imperceptible, and continuous. Some of the evidences that soil creep is occurring along a slope include tilted fences, terraces, bent tree trunks, broken walls, materials being accumulated behind fences and walls, etc. For number 4, we are asked to list 4 human activities that contribute to landslides in the Caribbean. Now, list means that you will not need to elaborate, but even though that is the case, you will still need to make each point clear. So, for example, if you want to say that the construction of high-rise buildings on slopes can contribute to landslides, it is not acceptable for you to just simply write the word buildings. You have to make your answer as clear as possible. All right, so some of the human activities that you could list include deforestation occurring along the slopes, the vibration of large vehicles, which helps to loosen materials, mining at the foot of the slope, building roads at the foot of the slopes, and so on. The final question says, describe 4 ways in which rivers erode. Since this is worth 8 marks, we expect to get 2 marks maximum for each process. The examiner may reward you with 1 mark for stating the process and then another mark for clearly describing the process. All right. So as long as you are able to list the processes of solution, hydraulic action, attrition, and abrasion, and state what they are clearly, then you should be able to get the 8 marks. Okay, so this is where I will stop. Thanks for watching, and as always, remember to like, to share, and to subscribe to Geography Journey.